Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet the legendary Timmy Newsome. He's going to talk about his football playbook on and off the field. That's next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas Newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, as many of you know, I grew up in Detroit, and during the years I was in Detroit, the Lions were so bad I had to root for a winning team, and of course, I chose the Cowboys, and I've been a Cowboy fan for as long as I can remember, and I remember watching this young man here during the 80s. Timmy Newsome is in the studio. Thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure having me. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. So most people would be excited to be in one Hall of Fame. You're in 5 Hall of Fames?
Yes, sir, I am. Sometimes you get lucky in this world, and I got lucky.
And you're going for a 6th?
I'm going for a 6th. The College Football Hall of Fame press release came out yesterday, so I'm on the ballot for that one.
Wow. Okay, so your playing years lasted from what year to what year?
From 1980 until 1988.
Wow, that was amazing. So yeah, and you probably have some highlights from that because we were in the championship game a couple of times, at least a couple times.
3 times.
3 times?
The first 3 years of my career, we were in championship games.
Amazing.
And we lost all 3.
I know. Well, that's okay.
I've gotten over it, I think.
Hey, as a Cowboy fan, it's been a long dry spell. I would take a championship game or 2. So we're going to have much more with Timmy in a minute. But when you were inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame, they made a wonderful "This Is Your Life" video. So
yes.
Let's go ahead and roll that.
Timmy Newsome was born in 1958 and raised in Ahoskie, North Carolina. At Ahoskie High School in Hertford County, Timmy played 3 sports: football, basketball, and baseball. During his senior year in high school, standing 6'1" and 180 pounds, Newsome was named to the all-conference teams in 3 sports. He later accepted an athletic scholarship from Winston-Salem State University. Coached by the legendary Bill Hayes, the Rams staged back-to-back undefeated regular seasons in 1977 and 1978 with a semifinal appearance in the NCAA Division II playoffs versus Delaware. Timmy earned CIAA Offensive Player of the Year honors 3 consecutive years. He also earned All-American status in 1978 and 1979 and National Player of the Year honors his junior season, and finished 2nd in the nation in rushing for Division II. He ended his collegiate career as the all-time leading rusher in CIAA history. Averaging just 16 carries a game in his 4-year career, Timmy rushed for 3,843 yards, a whopping 6.1 yards per carry average. He also had 38 touchdowns. He was the CIAA's leading rusher and scorer for 3 consecutive years. After college, the Dallas Cowboys selected the now 235-pound back in the 6th round of the 1980 draft. After a 9-year career, he finished as the 9th leading receiver in Cowboys history. He was named to the Dallas Cowboys weekly newspaper's all-decade team of the 80s. He also was named to the NCAA Division II 40th Anniversary Tribute Team, the CIAA Hall of Fame, the WSSU Athletic Hall of Fame as a player, and as a member of the 1977 team. Timmy Newsome, Black College Football Hall of Fame, class of 2019.
Okay, I have to ask because we're going to at some point move on to after football.
Sure.
But Coach Landry, what was that like?
He was a wonderful person, very diligent, very methodical in the way he approached the game. The thing I remember about him most is that he did all of his coaching in the classrooms. Didn't do a lot on the field, but on game day, he would call all the plays. He was kind of like the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator all in one, which was really a throwback to the old days.
Wow. Okay, now he was a very stoic guy. When I think about him, I'm thinking about him in the fedora with not much of a smile on his face.
Right.
Did you see him smile in the 10 years that you played?
Very seldom. Yeah, very seldom. He was always very focused in what he was doing, and so he didn't do a lot of smiling, even in meeting rooms.
Okay, so everybody feels like they're going to play forever, and you actually had a very long career. I mean, a typical NFL career doesn't last but a year or two, does it?
It's less than 4 years.
Is that right?
Yes, the average.
Okay, so how did the career end, and what was that like? Was it an adjustment for you?
Well, of course, Jerry Jones bought the team in 1989, and Jimmy Johnson took over. And so at that point, I felt like it was time for me to make my exit. I stayed through training camp for a little bit. They drafted Darrell Johnston.
Okay.
He was a very capable fullback, and so I went in and spoke to Coach Jimmy Johnson, and we agreed that it was time for me to call it a career, so that's what I did.
Wow. Okay, what was the adjustment like recognizing that my football career is behind me?
Well, I had always worked in the off-season in technology.
Okay.
And even in that last year, I was working for a firm that sold computer software to banks. And so when I retired, I just went back to do that work and did that for a couple of years until I started my business.
And we've got some pictures that we're going to put up because you're a popular speaker. You go around the country. You get invited to a lot of conferences. So let's pull that up. And talk about some of the things that you're passionate about. When you're invited to speak, what do you speak about?
Well, I basically do testimonials and talk about my experiences in sports, and I use sports as a metaphor to talk about the things that I really am passionate about, which is empowering youth to be better than they were the day before. And so a lot of it has to do with my own personal experience and growth, and then use that to speak about the things that I think everyday people would want to hear about.
Yeah, and you've been very successful in business. Tell us more about your Newtec business solutions.
Well, I started it in 1991. We're a managed service provider specializing in unified communications and collaboration products and services and security. And we go into businesses, set up the networks and monitor the networks and do cybersecurity. And we also do voice over IP telephone systems.
Wow, which is so critical. And in the some 30 years that you've been doing this, technology has changed quite a bit.
It has, but the basic concepts are always the same. But I really enjoy the changes that have come about over the past few years, particularly the introduction of the internet and cloud computing and things of that nature. It has made it more affordable for people to use technology now than it did when I started.
Yeah, and I think it's probably also good for business that every 2-3 years, whatever you installed is now outdated and you got to install some more.
That's exactly right. So it's very helpful for that bottom line.
Talk about how football shaped the way you approach business, because I think about all the discipline that you have to be a top tier athlete. How does that play out in the business world?
Well, I think the thing I take away from it is the things that we do in football, the structure that it brings, the repetitive nature of what it does. Give you an example. We will practice the same play every day up until game time. And technology is somewhat the same way. You go in and you look at a problem, you analyze that problem, and you think about all of the possibilities so that when you get to do the installation, you do it with a lot of professionalism and vigor, and knowing that if anything goes wrong, there are avenues that you can take that will help mitigate any disaster that could be on the horizon.
And do you ever have to get up to the line of scrimmage and call an audible
all the time.
In technology?
All the time. I stay awake at night wondering about all of the different possibilities that I haven't thought of the day before.
Yeah. All right, when you dream, do you dream football or do you dream technology?
Well, now I dream technology, but when I played, I dreamed football all the time. I always dream myself scoring touchdowns, always.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to talk about your work in the nonprofit arena. Yes. Tell us about your nonprofit that you're most passionate about these days.
Well, there are two. Huck's Cafe is one, and what that is, we employ adults with disabilities. That's very, very close to me. And then, of course, the YMCA of Metropolitan Dallas, I'm on that board, and we of course, have facilities throughout the Metroplex. And so we do a lot of different things. Each Y is different. That's the thing
Yes.
that intrigued me more than anything else. One Y in North Dallas may do something different than a Y in South Dallas.
Sure.
So that's one of the unique features of the Y. And then there's a third component. We do, I do some things with the Dallas Cowboys in their Legends program, and we go to the Salvation Army once a month and do mentoring. I had this one little boy, he says, "So when did you stop becoming famous?" I said, "That's a really good question." I have to think about that one. I said, "Well, I still sign autographs." He said, "Okay."
Well, tell us why that's, giving back to the community is so important to you.
Well, it's something that was instilled in me from my mother and father. My mother was a school teacher, and my father worked in automobile mechanics, and he was a farmer. And so it was part of the culture growing up.
Sure.
And so I just decided to emulate some of the things that they did, and I saw how they helped people, and I thought I could just do the same.
Okay, so in the couple minutes that we have left, I want you to look into the camera on the left and talk to that young person who might have not found his purpose or her purpose. What words of encouragement can you give to that young person to come up with a playbook and then have a backup plan?
Well, I think the thing that helps me is that the things that I do behind the scenes, when I get up in the morning, when I have to go through the rigors of going to the computer and understanding the technical aspects of technology, nobody's watching. Nobody's ever watching until you have to perform. And that's the thing you have to do, is to do the work, and then you can get the notoriety. But it doesn't happen the other way around.
Outstanding. Well, you've been an amazing guest. We're going to put his website up on the screen if you want to get a hold of the great Timmy Newsome for your speaking opportunities, or just to have a mentor. Reach out to him. The great Timmy Newsome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, sir. Enjoyed it.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.